To hear the full episode, become a patron at patreon.com/deathpanelpod.
Hey everyone, Artie here. And welcome to All Care for All People, a special limited series from Death Panel that we've been quietly working on in the past few months. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be presenting a series of interviews with people engaged in mutual aid survival programs, working across a variety of tactics, locations, and organizational structures, who are each stepping in different ways to provide care where it is needed, care where it is disallowed, where it is criminalized, and in the pockets of state abandonment on which our political economy thrives and in conditions that have become only more dire under the thumb of a second Trump administration. A few things about this series. First, this is an attempt to highlight the sheer proliferation of survival work and mutual aid projects happening right now, a series in the form of more or less oral histories intended to show not only just how much is happening, but how eminently possible and necessary it is to start doing this work, or something like it, wherever you are. But we also want to be clear that these interviews offer only the smallest glimpse of political activity happening right now. First, because we chose to focus on speaking with projects oriented around care work or health in a broad sense, like free clinics, harm reduction, street medics, and more. And second, because we've also focused on projects that already have some form of public presence. There's a lot of work happening out there that is happening very quietly by necessity, where added attention to the work being done would be antithetical to the perpetuation of those projects. That also extends to the subjects that we did interview. You'll notice that we've taken a lighter touch to the editing on these recordings. They're more straight oral history recordings than the typical Death Panel episode. They are edited, however. In each case, we've removed anything the organizers have requested us to keep off the record. You'll hear the occasional beep, for example, when proper nouns were used that had to be redacted, and in some cases, brief asides will be cut. Some of the interviews are with groups that will share their names. In other cases, interviews will obscure even the specific name and location of the group, and in some, the voices have been modulated to preserve anonymity. This is especially important in cases where the groups are targets of the state, even if what they're involved in on a day-to-day basis is as simple as keeping their neighbors fed. Many of you will also notice the title of this series shares its name with the book B and I are currently working on, also called All Care for All People. That's intentional, as in many ways this series serves as a precursor to the book that we're currently in the middle of writing. So this series also offers, in a very direct way, access to some of the background research for All Care for All People that we're currently working through. And we hope that to have these interviews available into the future will mean that these can have their own effects and their own impact independent of the book itself. As a final note, these will certainly be unlocked in the future in some form. For now, consider these to be early access for patrons while we're taking the time to work on the book. Having these in the patron feed is also going to allow us to more quickly address any information that might need to be additionally redacted at the request of organizers before these are fully public. With all that said, however, please, obviously, feel free to share these episodes, download and share them, with any friends who might need to hear them, or especially with people that you organize with. Because as a series of special episodes within Death Panel, and on the occasion of writing our book, All Care for All People, the best thing that these could possibly do is inspire or enrich more work like what we're trying to capture here, regardless of whether we're ready to release them out into the open internet yet or not. And for patrons listening to this, we want to, as ever, thank you for your support, not only in making this show possible, which you do, the show is entirely made possible by your support, but also thank you for supporting us in making a series like this. We've gotten so many requests over the years for something like this, really since the COVID and organizing episodes in 2023, and it's taken us a while to find the frame that would really make the series what we would want it to be as listeners ourselves. So, thank you. And I'm so excited for everyone to hear these and learn from comrades all over the next few weeks. And of course, we'll be back to our regular programming soon. With all that said, I'll leave it to B to set up this week's interview. More from us soon, and stay alive another week.
What advice would you guys give to people who want to get involved in similar work, either joining up on projects, starting their own projects if there isn't one in their community already? And is there anything that you wish you had known when you got started?
I mean, I already kind of said this, but I do think like on a personal level for me, it was like not underestimating what you can and cannot do. And really being open to the fact that you can learn a lot, and you can do things that you maybe thought you couldn't do. Like when I got involved in this in 2020, I never would have thought I could be someone who would be the person to help, in overdose reversal. But I've learned that skill, and I thankfully haven't had to do it too much, but I have been involved in that. So I just think like being open to challenging yourself, and finding people who you can learn from.
Yeah, if you're not, if you're not like ready to go just, with one of your friends and, make a bunch of sandwiches and just set up a table and give them out, then and print a bunch of zines and give them out, then start with something you maybe can do. Like maybe you do put, like a flyer up at your library or an announcement at your library that you want to have like a reading group or a book club or something like that. I think sometimes people feel disconnected from, like they're not really sure where to start. And not just in the work, I guess, but socially. And so, and maybe there isn't just like a group that you can find online that you can join, but maybe you start the group, maybe you start a political education reading group, and then you all can decide what works best for your community, and you can get started doing things like, food distros, harm reduction, whatever it is that people need. And so, you know, nothing is perfect immediately, or nothing is doing all this work immediately. Everything that Olivia spoke to about the beginnings of the project say that things have to be agile, they have to change, but they also have to start somewhere. Like they have to start with, I take groceries to this one person who needs groceries or whatever it is. And those things turn into something else if you let them and if you want them to. So like, Paul talked about how, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound to cure. I mean, I think that's true about our approach to fascism and to capitalism. It's like, don't wait for the moment when it's too late for you to know who your neighbors are. Don't wait for the moment when it's too late for you to know how to, reverse an overdose or use an AED or, like know what's in a safer use kit. Just try to learn those things now, and try to do it with people who are, even if they're not the expert that you can rely on to tell you how to do it, maybe they're willing to learn along with you, and sometimes that's all you can do.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, right, for folks who are listening and want to do this, or who feel called to this type of work, is just knowing that you can do it, right? I think so much, so many times in our society we're bogged down with, like concepts and things like legal liability and um I don't know these things. I'm not an expert. I'm unable to do something, and really that's not true, right? You are able to do things. You are able to have an impact on your community. You are able to save lives, and you just need to kind of have that faith in yourself, right?
Yeah.
I think on a broader, less individual level too, the one thing that I think is so important is having trust in your neighbors and in your community to help steer the project, right? I think in a lot of organizing spaces, people come in and they've done whatever reading, and they've done whatever, fancy master's degree or whatever, and they think they know all the answers, and they kind of want to impose their ideas on others. And that's not the way to go about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trust the people that you are in community with, trust the people that you are trying to help survive, trust the people around you to help you and to help themselves, right? Guide the project. What actually needs to be done? How are we actually going to move? Because, even in Philly, right? Every harm reduction organization is different, right? There's
Yeah.
not one model that is successful, and there's not one model that's destined to fail. So I can imagine if there's such a tapestry within just one city, the things that we're doing in Kensington are not going to apply to somebody who's doing this work in, like New Mexico, right?
Mm-hmm.
So take the lessons from people that maybe aren't in your communities, right? Take the lessons from us, take the lessons from whatever reading you do. But trust your community and trust the people around you to help guide the project in a way that is going to be most effective, right? All we really have is the people around us and our community. And that is ultimately, right? Our communities are what is ultimately going to free us. There's not going to be a government. There's not going to be, a president, a fucking city council member. That's not how that works, right? It's you, it's the people it's your neighbors. Those are the people who are worth listening to and who have that knowledge and who have um, that ability to save people and free people and build something new together.
I love that, Paul. And ironically, we're pivoting to the sort of more like conceptual questions, which is funny to come after your comment on master's degrees, which is very apt. But
I'm pretty sure that we all have master's degrees, actually. So, Paul.
I'm a dropout.
Oh,
I'm a master's dropout.
So. But we don't, we don't like hold them up. We don't show them like cards and say, you got to listen to me because of this.
You don't have your credentials in your display name.
Yeah, right. Like in a frame at work.
I actually do have my master's degree hanging on the wall behind me.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Never mind. We weren't making fun of it. No, but it's cool. It's only cool if you do it, Olivia.
It's next to it, so it kind of is overshadowed by that.
Oh yeah, that's rough. Then you deserve it. Keep it hanging.
So, how do you all think about health, about capitalism, policing, borders, austerity, state abandonment, and how does that analysis inform your practice? I know we've sort of touched on this a little bit, but I also just want to, in each of these conversations, I want to give sort of specific space to just talk about this in a kind of purely theoretical sense as well.
I mean, I guess I can start partly because it's like I'm an academic and it's kind of my day job to like think about health, I guess. But when I think about it with regard to the work that we do, I mean, I guess I think about it the same way that I think about it, when I'm like not doing this harm reduction work. But when I think about health and capitalism and abandonment, I think one of the things I think about most is that one of the most important pieces of ground for me never to cede or to think about when doing harm reduction work is that we are constantly told by people who have an interest in health capitalism, in abandoning us, in us abandoning each other, in us only getting care if it's commodified. We are constantly told things that are basically projections of their devaluations of our lives. Like we are told that people who use drugs don't care about themselves. And so no one who doesn't use drugs should care about them. We are told that people who sleep outside don't care about themselves. But in the work that we do, the reason that we do it and the reason that we care for each other is because, and the reason people come to us is because people are literally trying to stay alive because they value their lives, They value their relationships. They value their communities. And so it's like this inversion that always happens where capitalism is what's doing the death dealing and devaluing our lives while simultaneously telling us that it's us. And so I think part of what makes this work so important for me and the way that I think about it is like everything that we're doing is we are asserting that that is false. We are asserting that if somebody comes to me and they ask for fresh needles and syringes or a pipe or whatever it is, they're coming to me because they want to stay alive and also perhaps thrive. And they want to live their life how they want to live it. And they are doing that despite the fact that they are routinely being abandoned or told that their life has no value. And so I think asserting that like we're not going to accept that inversion, like we are asserting the importance of staying alive and the importance of asserting that that is something that we value for all of us, and that everybody's life is going to look different, but that we won't accept the devaluation of it because that's not what we do. That's what capitalism does, is make these distinctions between people and decide that certain people simply aren't worth it. And we just won't let that happen. We can't let that happen.
I know that was hard to follow, but I want to leave it open in case you want to jump in, Paul and Olivia.
Yeah, I guess what I would add, and this is a slight pivot, but my approach to this work, especially thinking about like that the actual like labor of what we do is really informed by feminism. You know, what are the things that we do that the city isn't providing? It's care work, it's feeding people, it's, you know, the reproductive labor that is usually traditionally associated with women. And that's always just been something I've thought about why this kind of work is so devalued, right? Is that this is the work that women particularly have been expected to do for free for forever. And so that just, you know, to me, that always informs like part of why I think like doing this is important, even though like maybe it's not as glamorous to make sandwiches. You know, it's more glamorous to be the person speaking at a rally, right? So that, yeah, kind of, a lot of my thinking is really informed by feminism as well, and that I bring that to thinking about the work we do.
Yeah, I can add like explicitly, I think we are a revolutionary, you know, abolitionist project. And we don't see the state, the government, the you know the hegemonic forces, the way things are. We don't see these things as something that is able to be reformed or made less deadly. And I think that helps us because understanding that, right, as an organization allows us to ground our work in, you know, and I'm not gonna, I can't say it any better than Al already said it, right? But understanding that there is no reform in this system, there is no making things better, there's only making something new, helps us kind of cohere all our goals and all our work and everything we do around that.
To hear the full episode, become a patron at patreon.com/deathpanelpod.